I'll do whatever.
I don't know.
Also, guys, I have a question. Like, where does this get posted for him to see?
On the discussion board.
So, like, where I already posted it?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I had no idea. Okay, perfect.
You probably need to put it like in its own thing and say this is our link to our recorded.
Yeah, I will. I just didn't realize that. I thought that was a discussion board to prepare us for the meeting. I didn't realize that was for the meeting link as well.
Is there
okay, so who's doing what?
Okay. Is there anybody who hasn't led that wants to lead?
They're running late today.
Or we're running late today.
I'll lead. I haven't led. Does anybody want to do the summarizing?
I can do it, I guess, if no one else is.
Okay. Is there anybody who hasn't or that wants to?
I've done something the last couple times we've had a meeting, so I'm only waiting, hesitating to give other people the opportunity. If they don't, I have no problem doing it. So has anybody?
I've summarized. Does anybody else want to summarize?
Marin summarized. Jennifer's probably going to really busy.
Okay, that might be hard to do. Marin, have you summarized? I think you have. I think she has, right? Erin, does Erin want to summarize?
Oh, sorry, what are you guys talking about?
Do you want to summarize the meeting? Just take notes and at the end, just a couple minutes.
Yeah,
okay.
That's fine. I can do that. Lay down.
And then, who wants to do the time? Marin, do you want to do the time?
Sure, what do I have for that?
We need to be somewhere about 48 minutes. So when we've hit maybe 45, we'll maybe summarize. And okay. Okay. Let me look and see. Okay, we'll go ahead and start. And what we'll just go ahead and do is, if anybody wants to start and share one of the questions or share an insight that you really enjoyed that you kind of wanted to talk about, feel free to go ahead and start.
I can start if you want.
Okay.
I really liked the presentation that Kelly did on how she, like, I really enjoyed the stuff before she actually talked about being in the UN. I really liked how the examples that she gave. So, because this whole time I've been like picturing being a family advocate, and the only way I've been picturing that is when people say something against the family that I could stand up for it. But I liked how she gave me some different ideas where, you know, if you see a movie at Costa Vida, you can do an email, or if you see a problem at your child's school, you can make a difference. And so I really liked that, and how, like, it gave me different ideas, because those things are like directly standing up for the family, but they support it and are a good thing. So I just really liked her examples of being an advocate and how easy it is to do those small things and what a big difference you can make from that.
Well,
that's what really stood out to me this week.
I like that. I want to chime in.
Okay.
The neat thing about Kelly was that she started with her brother, and she advocated for her brother. So I kind of felt like, how am I going to advocate for something that I really don't know how to grasp? But she grasped it from within the home, and then she step by step took that outward, and then now she's been doing this for 10, 12 years, which was really exciting to see her expand so much. That was empowering. That helps me to say, okay, I can start little by little like she did.
I like that. She just kind of started off in the center in that microsystem. That's kind of what I noticed too. And then she went out a little bit more. And now she was in the macro system and working at the UN. But so it helped me to see that we can start small. We don't have to all of a sudden be this amazing advocate in the UN, but that we can start small. And then maybe eventually through experience, it can build out. Anybody else have any insights on Kelly's video?
I don't know that it's necessarily about the video. It's just kind of branching off of it. But the idea of starting, like, I've noticed as I've done some of my courses and stuff, but especially with this practicum, I reached out from my little microsystem and the, exosystem and stuff, and I've just kind of branched out. And as I've gotten to know more people within each system or level, they've connected me to the next level. And I think that was really interesting to see as far as the model is concerned, is that we can make connections within our comfort zone where we're at. And those connections can be what supports us as we branch out, because
I love that. And that's kind of what she mentioned. Yeah, that's what she mentioned, was to keep track of your contacts and who you meet, because that's how you're going to make, kind of grow and get to know other people. So that's a great insight. Anybody else? I was completely, I don't know why, but her experience in her video just completely opened my eyes. I mean, I kind of had this awakening yesterday. It might sound silly, but my husband came home and I said, you've got to watch this video. And I saw things like I'd never quite seen them before, especially when she talked about Satan's tools and how he's using these tools to blind. And I wanted to get your insights on, they had us go ahead and read the CRC, the Child's Rights Committee's articles first, and then get that viewpoint. And I wanted to see if any of you had a chance to read those articles and how you felt reading them. If anything stood out to you, or if you had any insight.
Well, I just.
Okay.
Sorry, who was that?
I was going to say something, but I think I cut someone off. Sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say that one resounding kind of concept through the whole thing was the removal of parental right. They keep calling it children's right, to explore and learn and be exposed to whatever they want. And that's somehow benefiting the child, but they're taking away all the parental rights. So a child could take their parent to court for every rule that's laid down and every consequence that's given, because they could say one way or another, that's, it was my right to experience it. It was my right to do it. And that just seems crazy to me. The whole point of a family is the mother and father teach the children. They raise them in society and hopefully raise them to be strong, supportive, and contributing members of society successfully, not just living, but actually contributing. And, that's part of the way society is built up. And so I saw that concept.
Was this new to anybody? Because this was completely new to me. I didn't know about the Child's Rights Convention. I didn't know any of this. Was this new to anybody, or was that just me?
Well, in California, I think we've taken some of the UN ideas, because my teenager was supposed to receive like a shot to prevent her from sexual transmission diseases of some sort. I don't know which one it was.
The HPV shot?
Yeah, and it's private. Whatever she got was private. Like, I didn't have any say, but because of the standards that I taught her, we decided, no, she doesn't need it. That doctor was very insistent, almost to the point of, if she didn't do it, he allowed fear in her, but she never did it because of our standards. And so, like, the UN is trying to actually, California, we're kind of, I guess, ahead of, or listening to other people's ideas and not really thinking about the family values.
So it's like unofficially been ratified in California?
Right.
that's so scary. I had a professor last semester for my humanities class, and I just thought she was crazy. She was talking about how, and apparently Obama was like really big for this. Like he tried to get it ratified during his term. And she was like, there are political leaders in this country that are trying to take your children from you from a young age. And I was like, I really think that you're maybe like watching a lot of YouTube videos or something to get you to that point. And then after, and you know, she went on about how it's like, no, they're passing it off as child's rights and how children have the right to make their own decisions. And I was like, wow, that's ridiculous. And then we went through this. I went through it yesterday. I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what she's talking about.
Right.
It looks good. It looks good.
Paper.
I read the articles and I was like, well, yeah, child's best interest. Oh yeah, respect rights and duties of parents, and each child has a right to life and survival. And you guys, I was reading this going, why haven't we passed it? I'll be honest. And then when I watched her video, I went, holy cow. Oh my gosh, I was almost sucked into this. And it blew my mind. It's scary, you guys. It really is scary. Did anybody else have an eye-opening experience?
I suppose mine came from my husband. He did this major too, and so he's already taken this class and graduated now. But he had the opportunity to go with Brother Rarick and his group of students when they went to the UN for the Women's Convention. And that's when I experienced it. Like, it was crazy, the things they're trying to pass. And the biggest one that they sat in on was sexual education. And they tied it in with this children's right thing. I forget what it's called. My mind's blinking. But with the children's rights that we've been talking about, these articles, they tied it in and saying that it was the child's right to explore. And so the curriculum was actually so graphic that they wouldn't show it in the meetings of the convention.
That's terrible.
They said that it was inappropriate, but they were going to show it starting from between 1st and 3rd grade. They wanted to the entire United States between 1st and 3rd grade. It talked about ways to masturbate. It talked about their right to masturbate, their right to explore with whoever they wish. It talked about how to provide consent so that they are protected as in I say no. They are protected as in someone can't come back and say that you raped them. It was like all about protecting.
We have no right to even opt our kids out of this stuff.
Parents can opt them out. Parents, if they told their child no, that they couldn't participate in those things or tried to teach them anything otherwise, they could be sentenced to jail. It was insane, the kind of things they were trying to pass. And that was my eye-opener. And then I started looking into stuff because my daughter started going to school. And I was like, okay, one of the first questions I asked was, what is your sex ed look like? What is your curriculum? When do you start teaching it? How does the district think about it? How do they feel about it? How does the state of Idaho feel about it? At the time, we were in Iowa, so it was completely different. You know, it wasn't as much of a LDS culture as it is in Idaho. But it's crazy the things they are trying to pass, and they pass it off as children's rights.
Well, did any of you watch the video? Did any of you watch the video that was done for child's rights? They posted a video.
I don't think so. What was it?
Oh yeah, no, I saw that video. It looks like you're protecting them from gunfire. It looks like their poverty levels and all of that. Whereas, like, that's not really. I mean, that's good. I love that, but because we think of Iraq and those other places, protect those children, but that's not really what they're all about. It's because I was going to chime in with that. The sexual education. My daughter was in 5th grade, and I signed off that she could not have sex education with a school. Well, on that day, there was a substitute, and I didn't know what day it was, but I knew it was coming up soon. She saw the video that I protested against her not to see.
Oh, no.
And so I had to backtrack a whole bunch. And there's actually nothing legally that I could do about it. So, in high school, it was just, it's just terrible. But because we were such a foundation within the household, we talked about everything and about what our perspective was on it.
Yeah.
And that's so important because whenever I was it was like 4th grade for me that they showed that video for girls, like the changes your body's going through, whatever.
Yeah.
And my family, that's where all of my sex education came from. Like I got my sex education from that video. I got my sex education from my health class in high school. And that was it. Like my mom and my dad were just like, we don't talk about sex. You don't have sex. It's just not a thing. It's like their mentality was just really like you just don't need to know because you're not having sex. And then like the time comes whenever I'm married and I'm getting to that point, I'm like, obviously, wait, what? So you know, and I had to pull back on that 4th grade video. And now as a potential parent in the future and as a wife, and my husband and I, we just go through these things that we hope that our children learn from public education, and sex ed is just not one on the list. It's just not something that I think that the school should be teaching. I think that that's something, and of course that goes within a perfect world. Every parent's going to parent their own kids, but that's not going to happen. Some kids have to get their sex education, like me, from school.
Right, and that's how come they say this is why we have to do it, because children like you were not receiving it.
Yeah.
So they're protecting you with giving you the condoms and the stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's amazing what they're teaching kids in schools nowadays. I feel like it's different than when we were little, you know.
Oh yeah.
It makes me worried because I have a 2-year-old daughter right now, and it does kind of make me nervous about like, am I gonna be able to prepare her for these kinds of things that she's gonna have to deal with? And I feel like we deal with a lot now, but
I preview it. So when the school is supposed to by law show you, and so you can preview it. And my son's in 6th grade, and it's fine now. It's mostly about the body, but you better believe I taught him all of it first. I'm not going to do what my parents did, but I feel like it could get, this is just, I don't know. I just feel this to the core that we have to be aware of this stuff so that we just don't blindly agree, and that we can see the deception, and that we can say, no, this isn't okay. I mean, I could spend the whole time talking about this video. But
I could as well.
I mean, what did you guys think about what Spencer W. Kimball, how he prophesied about Satan's tools, and then how she showed how they were used, how the UN is actually using these tools? Was there anything that stuck out to you about that?
Well, the thing that stuck out to me is, like, as an advocate, we can become really angry and say, no, we don't want this. But I kind of understood, like, the darkness with the light and the light with the darkness, that maybe it's our attitude needs to be more of the light. Because Kelly kind of said they had a special spirit, and so they were allowed to be there when there were times they didn't like the other women that were there, and maybe it's because they were using the light towards teaching what their values really were.
They were different, and they could tell that they were different. I like that too. What did you guys think about, like, the definitions that they made in that book to better understand the UN and the terminology that they were using? They've deceived all of those words, and they made their own book of the wording. And it says when they use gender, it doesn't mean gender, it's whatever you want it to mean. Or when they say reproductive rights, it actually means abortion. So they're saying all of these things that sound good, but the meaning is completely opposite. And
that's what they did. But that's what they did so well with the articles, is that they made it sound so good and so pretty, and like, oh my gosh, that's just logic. This should be happening anyway. And so that's what they did, is that they just twisted it and painted it in a different picture. But if you have, if you have the spirit and you have the eyes and you can see through all of that, then you're just like, I cannot believe this garbage that people are eating up.
Yeah, it's true.
For some people, like, English wasn't their first language, so how in the world were they supposed to know what they were even meaning by most of the things? And it's just, and that they were, like, in a pull funds and stuff like that for people who didn't agree with them. That I think just sounded so wrong. I'm like, oh,
is actually a very corrupt. It's a corrupt organization, and it uses power and money to influence in the way they believe. And unfortunately, a lot of these smaller countries that are struggling, they cling to it and they accept it and they say, great, we're on board, even if they don't agree because they need money so bad that they just do it anyway, which gives the UN more power and more influence. And so it's just interesting how that all works. I noticed another thing that they did, another tactic, was they would layer it. So they'd say like 2 or 3 good things, you know, protecting the parents as they protect their children and stuff like that. And then they would throw in one bad that's been worded really colorfully, and, you know, it's just sugar, you know, it's like everything's fluffy and great. And, oh, look, we had these 3 good things. Now just skip over this one and keep going. And then they'd list another couple of things and then put another negative one in there. And it was all about layers, how they kind of hid the truth. You know, it was a very deceitful and kind of secretive way of writing, in my opinion.
Well, and I'm very impressed that they knew how to do that. They know how to do that. And it's like very impressive. How do you get that way to be so deceitful?
Well, you know what I thought, and I know I have to be careful here with what I'm saying, but I thought of the temple, and I thought of what we learn in the temple. And it just, I saw it. I saw Satan at work. I mean, we know what he uses, and there it is. It's right there. Yeah. And what about the correlations to the proclamation to the family at the first UN meeting? That was in 1994, and the proclamation to the family came out in 1995. I mean, those things they said on the video weren't discussed at all in our country. No, same-sex marriage wasn't anything we were talking about in the 90s.
Well, actually, in 1995, the feminists had a group that was getting together for the 3rd annual year, and they were bringing in the rights of being gay and stuff like that. And so that's when the proclamation actually came out during that time too. So there was a lot of stuff going on that a regular housewife was not aware of.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Or even,
but it definitely came at the right time.
I think that it's interesting to see, because all of these things that happened, I mean, they were years in the making. It didn't just happen overnight, you know?
Yeah.
It was groups of people that got together. The proclamation, I mean, they revised that thing like no other. They made sure before they put that out, it was exactly how the Lord would want it. You know, everyone had to agree. And it's just interesting to see. You can see both hands. You can see Satan's hand at work, and then you can see the Lord saying, I'm going to keep it balanced, people. I'm not leaving you alone. You're not stranded. I'm giving you the tools you need to combat what's coming and what's growing, because he can see it all happening before we even knew about it. So it's just really interesting to see the timeline of everything and how it all played out.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, there's a part of me, I feel like naturally I can kind of get that fear. But then again, it's like what you said, we should never be afraid, but we should be aware. But then know that God is with us, and that I love how she said, like, be a defender of God's truth, and that how she was spiritually motivated. And even though the opposition is strong and they have money, they have the Spirit and they have God on their side. And just how she just kind of encouraged, like, I kind of wanted to be like, okay, yeah, I'm on your team. I'll do whatever, you know. I really felt like she was like calling people to defend and to stand up. And were there anything else, like any other insights that you guys had on this topic, or anything that you felt, or
that
maybe an action?
Me. I was like, how can I action? How can I get this done? I can't go out to Switzerland. I don't have the right tools. I don't have the right vocabulary. How can I help? And so I concluded I can talk about the UN, and I can blog about the UN, you know, because people don't know, the regular housewives don't really know what this is really about the abortion and the key words. Maybe we can pinpoint that out and highlight it a little bit and say, this is what they really mean.
Yeah.
So that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, using social media would be a perfect way, I think, to help people just kind of be educated about this kind of a thing. I mean, we've been talking about the importance of social media, and I mean, this is something you can use it for sure. So
I went on and liked the United Families International on Facebook. And I thought, okay, well, at least I can be aware. So maybe all of us can go and join and like United Families International. That's who she is a member of. But I was curious, how many of you guys are marriage and family studies? Are any of you? Or most of you? Okay, because then I was thinking too, like,
all of us.
Okay, so I was thinking, well, how can I even do that? And I went and looked at Michelle's bio, and she's actually a social worker. She has her degree in marriage and family. She does counseling. And so the advocacy isn't her background. It's just a passion that she has. So why can't we do that too? You know, we can get our degrees in what we're doing, but we can still advocate. And another thing is anybody doing that emphasis in advocacy? Because I think that's a new emphasis, right?
I don't think you can do it online. I don't think it's available online.
Yeah, it's only offered
on campus, right?
Are you sure? Because I swear I got an email. Okay, so it's just on.
I don't know.
They might be opening it up, but as far as I know, it's only offered on campus. That's what my husband did, was emphasis policy and advocacy, and it was fairly new at that point. And he graduated last spring, so in April of last year. So it's possible. They are trying to expand it. That's for sure. They're trying to make it, because a lot of their marriage and family major people are online. There's a huge amount of us online, and so they're trying to expand that into the
that's good to know, because I remember
but I don't know if that's now or 3 years down. I don't know.
I love it.
Maybe we could start our own Facebook of all of us who are in this class, that we keep staying together, kind of like a discussion group, so we can learn from each other along the way.
I love that.
I know that they have Brother Rarick has several societies that he's established. I get emails from them all the time about advocacy and human trafficking awareness, and they do stuff like that all the time. They have a society on campus, and as a online student, you can still be a member, and they've got it like a Facebook page and links and stuff like that, and then you can watch their recorded. You can watch the webinars and stuff like that, all their stuff that they do.
Okay. I think I joined his group too yesterday. I was like, okay, how can I get more involved with this?
I think I joined some group. I can't remember. I think I joined one of them. Something like that.
Right. Well, I love it. I don't know. Maybe that's where I'm supposed to go. I told my husband I'm feeling something here, and so it's just exciting when you kind of feel that excitement for something. But was there anything else? It can be totally off this topic. Anything else this week that stood out to you that you want to talk about? Amanda, was there anything you wanted to talk about?
Well, I don't know how much you guys, can you hear me first?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I don't know how much you guys talked about yet, but in Kelly's video about the United Nations, she talked about the opposition strategy. And I don't know if we talked about that, but
a little bit, but you probably have different insight. So go ahead.
Well, the way that she outlines it is, and it's like you were saying, Marin, that Satan does the exact same things. He uses logic to confuse. He uses rationalizations to destroy, shades meanings, opens door an inch at a time so that you don't notice what's going on until it's like too late. And then the final thing was leads from the purest white through all shades of gray to the darkest black. So I just think it's like gradual, and we don't notice it. And I heard you guys talking a little bit about how in the CRC document that the United Nations created, that I heard Carrie talking about it, that they kind of layer stuff, like they have really good things in there. so when I first started reading it, I thought, oh, this is really good. Like, why would anybody be opposed to this?
Yeah.
And then I got to the part where they were saying that children should have all access to technology and all these materials. And I just thought, I don't want my children to have access to everything. I want to be able to monitor what they watch, or, you know, they should not have access to everything. That's absolutely not right. And so from there, then I started realizing why the United States hasn't ratified it. And actually, the fact that the United States has not ratified it yet is just more proof to me that this is the promised land. Like, this is where the Lord wanted us to be. This is a great country still. I still believe that. And we still have leaders that support the family and that follow Christ. They may not be members, but that's okay. They still have those religious values that we have, and they still value the family. So the fact that we haven't ratified yet really says a lot to me, and I'm kind of proud. I'm kind of proud to be a citizen and to live in this country, because it just shows that we still have those family values, that, you know, and that parents do mean something. The family unit means something, and that parents should still have a say in how they raise their children and what their kids watch. And moms shouldn't have to go to work. Children shouldn't have to go to daycare. You know, I just think that, I mean, it'll take away our freedoms.
Yeah.
I was thinking about what you said about it opens, like, Satan works by opening the door an inch at a time. And that goes back to, like, Jennifer said that in California, her daughter was basically required to get a shot, and they didn't have to discuss the shot with Jennifer. It was just, she needs it. We're saying she needs it. This is what it is. Doesn't really matter. You don't get to know. So California, an inch at a time, they've already started in California with these things being applicable in our own country.
Well, and you can get an abortion in California and your parents not know.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, that's too bad. I didn't know that.
Planned Parenthood is our opposition on that.
Oh, yeah. Now they're evil.
Planned Parenthood is just nastified. Yeah.
Well, Planned Parenthood, I have different opinions on. I do disagree with abortion, obviously pro-life, but I'm more pro-choice, but my opinion on it doesn't really matter. But, like, agency is a thing. I don't think we can force that upon them. But Planned Parenthood does some good too. Like, I have really bad health problems due to my period, and so I have to go to Planned Parenthood to get birth control because it's like $1,000 from my doctor, and at Planned Parenthood I can get 2 years supply for that.
Well, yeah, that part of Planned Parenthood is a big debate, but it's about the children that are being aborted and they're still alive.
Yeah, I just don't think that children should be allowed to get abortions without parents' consent.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Blowing my mind. I had no idea that was a thing.
And
I think
go ahead.
A big thing to think about is, you know, it's the same kind of idea that there are people who create on the basis of good intentions and goodwill, and these programs are going to help these people, these women, these children, these victims, but it gets manipulated and it gets corrupted. And it's our job to be able to see what is corruption and what is not. You know, we have to approach it with the spirit and with a clean, pure lens, you know, and say, hey, I'm going to see this for what it is. And to be able to say, well, you might be doing good things, but I can't support you because you're still doing this. And if I support you, my support is going to be for everything. And I think that's something that's really difficult to do. Because there's even times where, and this seems like such a silly thing, but it's not. I think it was John Mayer. He's a singer, right? And he's known for not treating women very well. Kind of a player, and I'm pretty sure that's who I'm talking about. Maybe I have the wrong name, but there's a famous singer who's like this, and he's got the songs, you know, mothers be good to your daughters and all of that. And that's it's got a pretty decent message, real sweet, talks about love and thinking about other people and that sort of thing. But if you just take that song and you say, oh, this is a wonderful song and this guy, he promotes this and this is great, but what else does he do? You know, you have to balance things, because all the negative isn't just wiped away by one good thing. You know, you have to see the person as a whole if you're going to attach them to what you're promoting or advocating for. And I've seen that sometimes where people will promote things based on one good little fact. And it's like, but he's not a credible person. You know, like you can't, he doesn't live. He's a hypocrite. He doesn't live what he says. But yet you're using his song to say live like he's saying to live. It just doesn't make it a valid argument. And so I think that can apply to anything. That can apply to conversations, blogs, even social media that we see, organizations. You know, we have to be able to separate. There was a lot of talk about gray area, you know, how they just slowly inch over till it gets a little bit darker each time. You have to be able to keep it black and white and say, this is what it is. This is the truth behind it.
Right. I really like what you said, actually. And I think to kind of go along with what you said about it's our job to determine what's corruption and what's not. I think the only way we're really going to be able to do that is if we have the Spirit with us, to be able to determine that. I mean, I feel like if we're just not, you know, keeping the commandments and doing everything that we need to, it just goes back to the church and how well we're staying close to it. And if we have the Spirit with us, then I feel like that's really the only way we're going to be able to tell the difference. At least I know that is for me. So that's I just think it's an incredible part of being able to do that.
Anybody else have anything they want to share, or any other insights on that?
I actually wanted to, is it okay if we talk about something a little different?
Yes.
I just had something written down. I read the chapter in our book. It was about redefining marriage, and I thought that was pretty interesting. Just reading that whole chapter on it, and one of the questions was, what consequences of redefining marriage to you are the most disconcerting? And I think that was hard for me to pick, because they're all pretty disconcerting to me. They're all very sad, and I think one of the biggest things that I learned from that chapter is just, and I already kind of knew this, but we don't really consider the rights of children anymore, or their needs. We're basically living in a society where all that matters is the desires of the adults. You know, that's why we're getting all of these different definitions of families, and nobody's paying attention to how it's going to affect children, you know, in many different ways. And we have so many people who are getting divorced, and people get divorced and they don't even think about how it's going to affect the child, you know. And then obviously some divorces are probably a good thing, but for a lot of them, it's really not. And it's just really sad just how it's affecting children and even unborn children as well. You know, we just get careless, and because we think we can do whatever we want, we can just, you know, we just get careless, and then we get pregnant, and then people get more abortions, and then it's just a terrible cycle. And I just thought that was really sad, that it really does affect children in a tremendous way, and nobody cares. They just care about their own selfish desires and what they want, and that just really bothered me.
Yeah, so, I was thinking, like, what are some of the trends that we're seeing? How are we seeing it's being redefined?
Well, I think that, so we're talking about marriage, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I just think that now it's just two people who love it. I don't even know if it has to be people anymore. Really?
Oh, it doesn't. It doesn't. Not at the global standard. Not at the global. Right. I mean, people in China, and
you get married to a horse if you want, and it's marriage. Yeah. So it's just ridiculous now. Like,
it's so sad.
It's just ridiculous. And so I just think that it lacks any rationality and common sense. The way I think, it takes a man and a woman to create a child. That is what, biologically, that is what is necessary. Therefore, it should take a man and woman to raise a child. So that is just how I've always thought of it. I mean, I understand that there's situations where divorce happens and there's single moms or single dads, and I don't know if you guys watch Modern Family. I don't know if anyone watches that, but I love that show. but it's just funny sometimes to see, like, you know, the two, Cam and Mitch, raise their daughter, because I mean, it's so funny, but I don't agree with, you know, obviously, like, them. I don't know. It's not that let's see. It's hard to. I don't know. There was this one situation where she was playing with her stuffed animals, and the stuffed animal was a boy, and instead of having a girlfriend, he had a boyfriend. So you could see how, like, it affects the kids, you know, how they start to see different things, and then it's like the new normal. Mm-hmm. So, and then they were able to actually get married too. They weren't for a long time, and then they finally did when the laws changed. But
I guess what is kind of troubling about that is they do take a dominant role. They either take a man role or a woman role.
Yeah.
And so they want to criticize a man and a woman, but on the other end, you want to behave like a man or a woman. So that's curious to me. Why don't you just take on your own role and just, you know, be happy? I have an employee that
go ahead.
Got married at 18 years old to another woman, and she was raised in the church and everything, but she got married just like some people just get married because they're running away from whatever livelihood that they were raised in that wasn't very happy. So she did the same thing, but it was a same-sex marriage because it was her good friend. Well, I love my good friend. I would love to be married to my good friend, but not really. You know what I mean? Because my good friend can understand me. My good friend, when I'm 18 years old, gets me. But marriage is not about somebody always getting you. It's about working on trials and tribulations together. And so that's the particular part about redefining marriage. It's not about just keeping yourself happy. It's confusing.
Well, and unfortunately, that's how the world is today. It's about your happiness, not anybody else's. You know, whether or not you're happy or not. And if, you know, it's like, if you're not happy anymore, you can just get divorced. It's really sad.
And especially in America, because we are an individualistic society, and there's like places like China, they're still have a collectivistic view where they really value their grandparents and their elders. So I tutor Chinese kids every morning, and then when we talk about the family, almost all of them live with their grandparents. They live very close by. They are so close to their family, and a lot of what they do reflects on their family and things like that. But in America, it's all about ourselves, what we want to do, and that. So I think it's culture too.
Mm-hmm. What about dating trends? How do you think dating trends affect the way that marriage is redefined?
I believe, and this is something that I had a coworker say to me a couple years ago. He fell in love with one of our other coworkers, and then he ended up doing like a mission through his church, and so he was gone for a very long time. And like they fell in love before he went on his mission, and everybody was just like, "You guys should get together. Like, you love each other. You know, this is how it's gonna work, and it's just gonna be perfect and rainbows and everything's great." And he goes, "I'm gonna be gone for a year, and I don't want her to have to wait for me for a year." And then, you know, one of our other coworkers is like, "Well, just break up with her for that year, and then when you come back, you get back together." And he goes, "No, I would never do that." He goes, "It's muscle memory, really. All you're working is your brain or your heart, and it's just a muscle, and you're just preparing it for divorce. When you date someone, break up with them and get back together, break up and get back together." He says, "Even if you just do it once, you're just preparing yourself for a divorce in that situation." He goes, when I'm finally ready to be with her, and when I come back, if she and I are meant to be together, then she'll be here still." And he's like, "I'm not going to put her through that, and then we get married, and in 10 years we're divorced." He goes, "I would think about this instance every time if that's what happened." And so I think about that, and I think about that with like, my ex-boyfriend and I, we were together for 4 years off and on. We broke up and we were back together all the time. And I think, like, why weren't we together? Like, why didn't we last? Or like, why didn't we ever get married? It was 4 years. And then I think about that, and I think, I am so grateful we never got married, because we couldn't even stay together for a year without breaking up. Mm-hmm. How would we have gotten together? Like, how would we have lasted in a marriage? And so I think think that the way that society views dating as a whole, like break up if it's not working, they get back together if you can't find anybody else. Like, I think that that's really redefining marriage, because it's just practicing. And if it's okay to break up, then it's just one little tiny step to divorce.
Yeah. Yeah. Where's the commitment? Where's the, let's work it out. Let's learn to solve problems. Well, if it's just not working out, then we're just going to get a divorce because that's just the easy way. Yeah. Sometimes divorce is necessary. I'm not anti.
Sometimes,
there are. I've seen it in my own family, but there are also times where I've learned that things need to be worked out, and that marriages can be saved too. But anybody else have thoughts? Go ahead.
I was reading an article from the Ensign. Every once in a while, I'll just look up topics that I want to learn more about. And usually it relates to me, like trying to better myself. Yeah. And I came across in 1987, so this was a while ago, but I think it's still very relevant. And it's called Me and Thee by Steve F. Gilliland. Anyway, he's a marriage and family therapist, and he talks about selfishness and how it's the major cause of almost all marital problems, and how, you know, he says right in there that there are times where divorce is necessary, but the majority of the time, and high majority of the time, it could be rectified and saved if people were to look at themselves and say, I'm being selfish, and to approach their relationship differently. And he talks about how selflessness is the foundation of it's the cement in a marriage. And anyway, it's a really good article. But when I read that, it reminded me of someone I met. Well, I know her, but it's my brother-in-law's friend. And she just recently got married. And she married who she said was her best friend. And they dated through Facebook. They met each other maybe twice in person right before they got married. They got sealed in the temple. And everybody was like, oh, this is such a love story. They love each other so much. But now, 3 weeks later, she's only 3 weeks into her marriage. She's already quit wearing her garments. She wants to file for divorce or annulment or whatever she can to get out of it. And it's all based on the fact that they're both two very selfish individuals. They married what they saw on the computer screen, and they expected marriage to be that computer screen. You know, the fluff and the words and the romance, rather than dealing with the actual interaction of, you know, the complications that come with being with another person that everybody experiences. But they thought theirs was supposed to be perfect. And all because they met on Facebook and they said, oh, we know each other way more than anybody else because we write each other every day. You know, to me, when I write a letter, I reread it 6 times before I send it, you know? Yeah. And so it was like, but that's not real marriage. That wasn't a real marriage because it wasn't their real self. You know, they weren't being honest about who they were and who the other person was. And I think that's also, I know it's kind of stretching the redefining of marriage, but as far as how dating affects that process, it's huge and it's very evident. And this is 2 members who got sealed in the temple. I mean, their families have been members of the church for a long time. And they were even susceptible to how the new way of dating threatens marriage.
I like that you brought up that it was social media, because my husband and I, a couple weeks ago, we watched about like this LDS lady who's just a social media guru or something. I don't know what her title is, but she educates families on social media and how you should allow your children to use it, or not just social media, I guess just media in general. And one thing she said is that when her daughter at 16 came home and was like, I like this boy, she said, okay, that's great. And she and her husband sat down and they decided together that she and her friend that she likes are not allowed to text each other more than like 10 times a week, I think. And if they wanted to talk to each other, they had to call each other and talk on the phone. And so they did that. You know, they had 10 text messages a week, and at first, as a 16-year-old, she said that was just like the most devastating thing to her child, that she was just like, you hate me and you never want to see me happy. And she said, but after like 2 weeks, she said, Mom, I am so grateful that you let me call him every day, or, I get to talk to him on Friday nights, or whatever, how often they spoke. She's just like, I'm so grateful that we're not allowed to text each other, because like I feel like I know him better than I would have if we were just in texting relationship. And so I think that that's one way that like social media and everything, like you said, Carrie, it can really distort our view of one another. And I think that that's redefining family, because you're just like, I see this is how he is on Instagram. This must be how he is in real life. I'm going to marry him. Or, he texted this sweet thing to me every morning, so that must be love. So I'm going to marry him. And it's just sad, because that's not reality. It's, social media.
Do you remember the lady's name?
I don't remember. But she was, we were watching like an LDS, like I can ask my husband and send you a quick email, because it's really good. Like, and we don't even have kids, and we're applying all of this to our lives.
Okay. So, that'd be awesome.
And there's just a few minutes left.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And can I make a quick comment?
Yes.
On what was kind of said a while ago, and I wasn't quick enough to jump in. But there was a talk, and I wish I could remember who it was, but it was by the president of the church at the time, and it was a long time ago. But he said that any two people living worthily in the gospel can have a successful marriage. So I think that's a good standard to go by, where if you're doing what's right and if you're trying, then you can make it work if you're doing what you can. So I just wanted to add that to the divorce discussion.
Amen. And I believe that too. Yes. Thank you. I think that was a good thing to bring up.
I have to say goodbye. I have an interview for. Okay.
Bye, Jennifer. Thank you for coming.
And we need to do the
summarizing.
The summarizing.
Yeah, I can do that really fast. Okay, so is that me then?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll go through this pretty fast. Okay, and I hope I got everything. I started getting so into the conversation that I totally forgot. Okay. I forgot to write a few things down, so I'll do what I can. Okay, so so we talked about, I think the first thing we talked about was being a family advocate and how we can start small, and we don't have to start out doing this humongous thing or anything. But with experience, we can eventually work our way up with our advocacy efforts. We could just little things make a difference, and as we gain more experience in what we're doing, we'll eventually be able to get bigger, I suppose, in just kind of our effect. And we can make connections within our own comfort zone. I believe one of you guys mentioned that. But just again, as we get experience, we can learn to branch out and get to know other people. And see, we talked a lot about the rights of a child and then the UN and just the terrible things that they're showing kids in schools concerning sex education and just how they're taking the rights from parents away and giving all these rights to the children and just bad stuff like that. And then we probably talked about that for the majority of the meeting. We talked about how Heavenly Father knows what's coming up, and so he gives us the tools that we need a little at a time to combat the evils of our time and just stuff like that. And we also kind of talked about how you don't have to be family advocate major to advocate for families. Of course, we're all marriage and family majors, but in general, we don't have to have a degree in marriage and family or advocacy to advocate for families. Let's see. I think it was Amanda. She talked about the opposition strategy and how Satan uses logic to confuse, and you don't know what's going on until it's too late, and he very gradually confuses people. And then we talked about our country. It's not perfect, but there are just so many good things, so many good people in our country that have high standards and strong religious beliefs. And that we talked about that it's our job to determine what's corruption and what's not, and we have to have the Spirit with us to be able to determine that, and stay close to the gospel and keep the commandments. Let's see, what else did I write down? Oh, and then how marriage has been redefined and how it has changed to be more where we're individualistic, I suppose, our society, and how we focus on more on ourselves. We're very selfish. We focus on our own desires, and we don't really care about as much about keeping our working out a marriage. We don't really care about the needs of children as much. So we have more abortion, more divorce, and more kids struggling. Marriage is basically just a mere contract now, and it can be easily terminated. Marriage is taken very lightly. Selfishness is the major cause of divorce nowadays. Of course, there are reasons I think people need to get divorced. So there are just situations, but let's see what else I put. And the last thing we talked about was our dating habits and how that can reflect marriage being redefined. We talked about breaking up if things don't work out really easily and stuff like that. And I'm sure I missed quite a bit more, but that's what I wrote down.
That's great. No, I think that's perfect. That's good.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
During the time when we were getting into like the rights of children, that's when I zoned out, or I mean, I zoned in and forgot to write things down. So I got the general. I was getting into it. Anyway.
So much. Does anybody want to send out the link for next week?
Are we meeting at 1:30?
We can meet at 1 or 1:30 next week. It doesn't. I just have given up on trying to make it to my other class.
I'm sorry.
No, it's not. It's not you. It's me. I'm just not able to manage my time. Even today, I was like, we're going to start at 1. I'm going to make it to the meeting. And then we started at 1:30 and we didn't. I can't make it. So might as well just aim for 1:30.
Are you sure we can try again next week?
We can. I just have to write 20 reminders.
I know that Jennifer, Jennifer likes to do it during nap time. I think that she said at 1 o'clock, it's not nap time yet. So I don't want to, for her, because I know that she's at work and she has a billion kids. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that person. It's I don't care about that. Fit your life to me. So I honestly can roll around.
Okay.
I don't care.
Okay. Who wants to send out the link?
Is she awake? Or you just want to go upstairs? You just want to go upstairs. Give me 1 minute and we'll go, okay?
Somebody already volunteered?
I don't know. I honestly will probably have more problems if I do it. You don't want me to do it, guys. I mean, I could hardly join today. So I don't know.
You want me to do it?
Okay, Erin, you want to?
Yeah, I can do it.
Okay, Erin will send it out and post it on the discussion board. Hopefully that'll work. And then
yeah, that's fine. I can do that.
Did anybody?
I can lead. I haven't done it yet, so I can lead.
We'll lead, and then I don't mind.
I can do data.
You'll do what? Sorry.
The summary.
The summary. Okay. And I'll do the time. I'll be happy to do that. Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Okay, perfect. I will see you guys. Oh wait, did we decide a time? 1 or 1:30?
Yeah. We'll do 1.
Oh wait. Try 1.
1:30.
1 works. 1.
Right? Wait.
I think we said we want to do 1.
Oh yeah, 1:30 for Jennifer. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So 1:30.
Okay. 1:30. All right. Okay.
Perfect. See y'all next week.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.